Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to do a follow-up video from earlier in the week in regards to our 8 key fundamentals to developing elite junior golfers. So earlier in the week, we labeled some key fundamentals that we believe that we talk about a lot here at Red Approach. And now today, what I want to do is get into one of those fundamentals in a little bit more detail and to kind of go through that. So today, we're going to talk about developing a well-rounded practice plan. Okay, and the first really big step with that is identifying what season are you in. So are you in season? Are you in the midst of playing in tournaments? Or are you kind of in the off season where you still have a couple weeks or months before you're going to start to play in any sort of tournaments? The big key is identifying and understanding that the off season is really designed to work on major swing changes, work on major body movement pattern changes, making the big changes that need to happen. We want to make sure we do that in the off-season time and not in-season. Once we get to in-season, so we're getting ready to play in tournaments during the summer, during the spring, and the fall, we're not making any really big swing changes or changes in our body. It's really just all about playing golf and being out there as much as we can. So we're going to develop a daily, weekly, monthly, and season plan on what we're going to work on, what we're going to do. You want to be 100% ready to go in season once that first golf course opens up. So you're going to work hard. You're going to make the big changes in the off season. So once that first golf course opens up in the spring, you better be 100% ready to play in a tournament. 100% ready to go with your swing. And that's the key fundamental for the off season, is making sure you are ready to go. You've worked hard, you put in the time. Kind of the way we look at it is the winter is considered the building and developing phase, and then the spring and summer is the execution phase. So we get into, okay, what do we do in the off season? The first step is really develop a game plan, develop the plan. And how you start with that is getting in here to Red Approach with our new student assessment. So we're going to do a functional movement screen, going to see where the body's limited. We're going to do our Red Approach power assessment. We're going to see just what the body's capable of, what it's doing. And then we'll get into some swing stuff. So we'll use our KVS and our 4D motion for some 3D body swing analysis, as well as our club data with our GC quads, and then some 2D video to really understand, have a complete picture of what's happening with each student. We're going to really identify any inefficiencies in the swing as well as the movement limitations. Once we get to in-season, so now we're ready to play in tournaments, it needs to be all about playing golf. Getting on the golf course and then really just focusing on short game stuff, wedges, pitching, chipping, putting, things like that. No major swing changes should really take place unless it's absolutely necessary during this period of time. So a couple of big things that we talk about, off season and then in season for all of our golfers that we found to be really effective. The first one is our top 5 yardages. So we want to develop 5 yardages that when we play our normal golf course, our normal tournaments on par 4s, we can possibly have those yardages in. And then we want to focus on those 5 yardages and get really, really good at. So if we see a lot of times when we're playing, we have anywhere from 100 to 165 yards in on a par 4. We're going to fine tune some of those yardages and figure out which one are we really good at, and we're going to spend our time practicing that and get really, really good. The next one is tee shot yardages. So what that means is we're going to practice being able to hit our driver, our fairway wood, our hybrid, maybe even a long iron, different yardages. So it's not always hit at 100%. It's maybe hit that driver 90% because we got to lay up to a certain yardage, because we're always trying to hit to a specific yardage in the fairway. So we're going to be practicing hitting our tee shots less than 100%. The next big one is wedge work. So we have our own system here for wedges, making sure that you're dialed in from anywhere from 40, 50 yards all the way up to 100, 110 yards. You have the club, you have the swing, you have it mapped out exactly what you need to do. So you pull out your yardage book and say you got 65 yards, and your yardage book tells you exactly, okay, from 65 yards, this is the swing, this is the club, this is what I need to do. So making sure those are dialed in. The other thing we talk about is kind of our go-to get out of trouble pitch yardage. So, we're going to hit bad tee shots, we're going to hit bad second shots, we're going to get bad breaks. We're going to focus on a yardage somewhere less than 40, 50 yards that we can really practice and get good at. So if we do get in one of these tough situations, we can lay up to that 30 yards and we know we're pretty good, and we'll have a good chance of potentially getting up and down and saving par instead of making double. And the last one is super important. It's our aim point, so it's our putting system. Learning and understanding and mastering how to read greens by using your feet and what you feel versus your eyes. We've seen a lot of success with it with a lot of our athletes. I personally use it, and I definitely swear by it. So that's a big part of in-season prep, in-season work that we do. When it comes to now practicing and playing in season, so in the summer months when we're in tournaments, a good rule of thumb, what we talk about is 25% of your time should probably be spent practicing, meaning on the range, doing things like that. 75% of your time should be playing. So we're in season, 75% of your time you should be on the golf course, doing something. If we kind of get into that a little more detail now, our practice breakdown. So when we go to the range, when we're hitting balls, when we're chipping and putting, things like that, we're looking at about probably 30% actual range time. So you're on the range 30% of the time. And then 70% of that time, we kind of look to see, doing more of short game stuff. So we're working on our pitches, our chipping, our wedges, and putting. Now we're going to break that down in even more greater detail. So now what we're doing is, when we're on the range, so that 30% range time, what is that going to be comprised of? So we say about 10% is going to be just about swing mechanics. So again, you're in season, you shouldn't be making changes, you shouldn't really be thinking about much. It should just be game plan, execution, let's go. 20% of your time while you're practicing should be tee work. So that's that hitting those specific yardages, hitting that driver at 90%, hitting that fairway wood at 80%, trying to hit to a specific yardage. 30% of your time is going to be spent on working on those top 5 yardages. So you're working on your number 1 yardage, your number 2 yardage, your third best, your fourth best, and your fifth best. So when you're playing golf, you're always trying to hit to those. So when you get to those yardages, you're really confident and you can execute. The big one, I think the most important one, 40% of your time is going to be wedges. So you're working on your different swings, different yardages from say 40, 50 yards up to 100, 110, 120. Those wedges are so important. They can bail you out. They can help you make birdies. So we got to spend a lot of time on those. It takes a lot of pressure off everything else in your game. So we talk about, 75% of your time should be on the golf course playing. So what do you do on the golf course? What we kind of say is when you are practicing on the golf course, we really want to only have 1 or 2 rounds a week at most, probably only 1, where you're actually playing for a score. Okay, so just because you're on the golf course doesn't mean you always got to keep score. That's not really that important. You want to save those scores, those score rounds for in a tournament. So when you're on the golf course, maybe 1 day a week, if not 2, you're going to fully play like you're keeping score and everything like that. Outside of that, when you're on the golf course, you want to make it fun, you want to make it competitive, you want to play games, you do different drills. A couple things that you can do is hit different tee shots off, only hit tee shots onto the course, and you're trying to hit it to your certain yard, you're trying to hit it to your first yardage, and then see how far off you are and chart that, and then after 18 holes, see what your score is. Another one is drop balls as your top 3 yardages. So say your number 1 yardage is 100, your number 2 is 125, your number 3 is 150. Just drop 3 balls at those, playing from there, and keep track of your score. Another one is drop a ball while you're playing at your bailout pitch yardage. So like we said earlier, if 35 yards is your bailout pitch area, while you're playing, drop at 35, chip up, get up and down, keep track of that score. See how many times you get up and down from there. The last really big thing in season is it's still important to come here and use the simulators and get on the launch monitors, especially if you're playing in a lot of tournaments. You want to come in here periodically, check your yardages, check your numbers, make sure your wedge numbers are carrying correctly. All your numbers are good. it's important to kind of do that in a controlled environment like this versus being outside, whether the golf balls may not be great at the range. Maybe the range isn't necessarily flat. Maybe there's wind that day. Maybe there's, the humidity, it's hot, it's cold, whatever. You want to come in here, get your baseline numbers, and then use the outside factors and adjust off your baseline. But you need to have your baseline indoors in a controlled environment and then work off of that. So it's super important to still get in here, even in the summer months, hitting on the launch monitors, tracking your numbers. The other big thing is, is coming in here and then playing the golf course, putting together your game plan while using the simulator, tracking out, par 3 yardages, tracking out how you're going to play, how you're going to execute that, and be able to get comfortable with that game plan, again, in that controlled environment, and then work off of that. So again, big thing today, we want to separate between an in-season and an off-season. The in-season is all about playing golf, short game, execution. The off-season is all about major changes, making big movement changes with our body, with the golf club, things like that. You want to put all the hard work in the off-season so that you can reap the benefits in season. So thanks again for checking this out. We're going to continue this, going into greater detail of these key fundamentals. We're going to have another video here coming up in the next couple days. And if you got questions or concerns, give us a call. Our number here is 219-510-2403. Or you can check us out on our website, which is rideapproachperformance.com. So take care, guys. Thanks.